All right, welcome back to day 3 of quarter 2, week 1. Today we're making a table, and actually we've already made the table. As you know, we've modeled the table. It looks like that, and then we've got we went and made sure the table's the right size, and then we went through and we UV'd the table. So we got our Hotline Miami checker map on there, and we made sure the UV lays out. We reset the transforms. We made sure it's snapped to the center, and we created the checker material, UV'd the table, and then we saved the UV out. So as of right now, we're getting ready to do the Photoshop work. So today we're going to drag in and name everything. We're going to make sure that the image is set up and ready to go. We're going to export it out to 3D Studio to make sure it looks good, and then we'll make sure we save the actual file that we want. All right, so let's get started. That image is too big. Too big. Alright, so we have our table set up, and we need to open up Photoshop. So we exported the material, or the UV, and it looks like that. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over, copy it on there. Remember, we dragged the UV first so that we know that the settings for the image are set properly. So this is 1024 by 1024, and I'm going to call this UV. Now, in the notes for this video, you found the files that I'm using, and the artificial wood background that I'm using is there. That's I just found a wood background online that was free for use. So I'm going to drag that on here and let go. And when I do that, it's going to come in small, and that's okay. And then I've got to place it by hitting enter. I'm going to drag it underneath my UV. Now, this file actually I probably should expand so it fits the entire space. So I'm going to click up here in my select and move, and I'm going to move it up till it snaps at the top. I'm going to move it down till it snaps at the bottom. I want to make sure it snaps just right, and make sure there's no extra room over here that I'm missing. Okay? Good, good, good. Alright. So this material is ready to go. Now, the important part about this is figuring out what direction our material needs to go. Like what grain, the wood grain itself needs to move a very specific direction. We're going to use this same wood grain over and over, and we want to make sure it stays consistent. So we want to make sure that the wood grain itself is good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter so that I place that file. I'm actually going to use this wood grain over and over and over again. So I'm just going to create a couple layers. I'm going to duplicate this layer here. Click OK. And now for this particular layer, I'm going to do just hold shift here so it resizes appropriately. I'm going to resize this layer so it fits within the confines of the tabletop. Alright, so I'm going to call this tabletop. Alright, and now I'm going to delete the sections around it by just using that. I'll have to rasterize this layer, and then I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and delete around it because I don't want to accidentally blend into the other parts. Just mostly through here is what I'm really worried about. Okay, good, good, good. Same with this. This is what we care about. We're worried about the grain direction. So now that's pretty well set up. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again. Duplicate this layer. Alright, and we'll call it, doesn't matter which one really, we'll call this table stand. Now I align this the other direction. So if you think about a piece of wood, the grain would go, when you make this table base, it looks kind of like a log already. So the wood grain would be going up and down vertically along that wood grain, because you would have one log and you just lathe it like we did actually. So we're actually going to need to take this, I'm going to get this out of the way here, take this file, okay, table stand, and I'm going to rotate it by doing that. I'm going to hold shift so I get it at 90 degrees. Alright, now you'll notice the table stand itself is still fine. So I'm also going to shrink this down a little bit, holding shift and alt. Then I'm going to move it so that it's roughly there. I'm looking for the grain to match up, and I'm looking for it to go all the way down to the bottom. So I'm going to have to increase the size of this because I want it to go all the way to the bottom to cover the feet, because I want the grain to sort of match with the feet. Now it's going to be a little warped through here, and I'm okay with that. Okay, hit enter to place it. Alright, the last bit of graining we need to be concerned about is this side portion. Realistically, it should probably be going the other direction, so it should probably be closer to this table stand. But since this is the last piece we care about, I'm going to rotate the entire thing by 90 degrees and then hit enter, and that should be good. I'm also going to move this because I want it to be a darker wood, and you'll notice the grain actually is a little different from place to place on this file. I'm going to hit enter, so I've placed that there. So now all I really need to do is duplicate this layer, and we'll call this background, and I'm going to move it over there, and this is going to be my bottommost layer because I want this to actually adjust my feet. Now you can see I've got multiple different colors sort of coming around. This will be, oops, table edge. Cool. So now I just want to go through and make sure I've got everything selected and placed where I want it to be. Notice I've got a little bit of edge on this background. I need to move over just a little bit. Good, good, good. Alright, so the grain through here looks okay. I can grab the table stand itself and maybe, or it looks like the tabletop needs to be erased just a little bit. There we go. So that the grain is going to show through. Good. Good, good. And for this portion up here, I'm also going to delete some of that. Make sure it's not going to get on there. Also going to look down here to make sure it's going to be okay. There. Alright. I think it's basically done. It's pretty easy today. Let's get the background for this background section. Grab this tool. Looks like we have a little space at the top. We wouldn't want that to be showing. There we go. Make sure there's no other weird gaps in our image. That's it. We're ready to go. Let's go ahead and render it out. I'm going to get rid of the UV. Looks like a sort of weird mishmash of wood file. We're going to save for web. 1024 by 1024 is fine for now. Click save. I'm going to call it lathe table DM. Alright, I'm going to replace it because I already made this once so we could see it. I'll minimize that. So now I get to come in here and create a new material and drag my new lathe table DM into it. Alright, just drag that on there. It should work. And then we can drag this over here and see how it looks. We'll have to turn our edge faces off so we can see a little better. You'll notice we do have an edge here, but that kind of makes sense. There would be an edge that runs along that direction because this would be one piece of wood and then this would be the side of that wood. So it would sort of make sense. It's not perfect, but I'm happy for now. And that's my basic edge. Once again, you've got edges down here that are going to be hard to avoid, and realistically those would probably be separate pieces of wood that were like bolted in anyway. So now it's basically done. We have our image rendered out, our diffuse map ready to go. It's on there. Now we just make sure we hit Shift F so we get a nice framing set up. Get a good look at this. Maybe through something like that even. Zoom in. and we're going to hit F10 to make sure our render setup is proper. So I go to output size, HDTV video, 1920 by 1080, so that's good. Also, today we're going to try a new type of renderer. Right now we've been using the scanline renderer. You'll notice there's a little black scroll bar here, so scroll all the way down the bottom and you can see assign renderer. You can click down there, and under production you see assign or default scanline renderer. Go ahead and click that and then change it to NVIDIA Mental Ray. Click OK. Alright. Now it may not look like anything different right now, but when we actually render it, you're going to see it takes a little longer and it works a little differently. And there's a whole lot of options down here. What it does is it's a better form of rendering. It's a little bit slower, but it gives you more accurate shadows. It gives you better gloss. There's a bunch of fun things that it can do for you. Speaking of gloss, we should probably adjust the specularity on this thing, specular highlight. So I'm going to crank this up. So this is a glossy table. Maybe not quite that glossy. That looks good. So let's do 70 and 70. That looks good. Play with it. Find out what you like. You'll notice that NVIDIA Render makes it look a lot better. See, you get that nice little glossiness there. Alright, I think that's good. Let's save that out. Save. And we will call this lathe table TN for thumbnail. And we'll save it as a PNG, of course. Yep. Save. Yes. Okay. Now, once again, let's go ahead and do, just for fun, let's do another render at a different angle. Maybe something like this. Right. I can close that so I can see a little better. So people can see how, I mean, we took a lot of time to make sure the bottom looks good. We should probably render that out too. So we render that. And we'll call this lathe table TN2 for our second thumbnail. Once it's done rendering. I'll just put a 2 there. 2. And it's already a PNG because I clicked on the other one. Click OK. Alright, great. So now, I'm going to go back into Photoshop. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to close this. If you want to save this, I want to save this as lathe table DM. I'll overwrite my old one. And now I'm going to open up my folder that had everything else in it. And when I do that, I'm going to be able to, YouTube files. Sorry, you can hear me clicking through there. My 2 renders, so I'm going to grab this and drop it in. The reason I do that is so that it's the right size and everything is already organized the way I like it. When that's in, I can just click here, place it. I can grab the other one, drag it in, and place that too. So now I can resize them. Good. Enter. Get the other one, drag it down like that. Enter. Move this one up a little bit like that. This one over a little bit like this. Good. There. And now there's room for my name. If you haven't done so already, it's probably a good idea to just keep one setup so that it's organized and ready to go for next time. So I'm going to go ahead and do, let's go blue, purplish. That's good. So when we present this on the Wall of Fame, we want to make sure we have our number, so whatever period you're in. So number, and then a space, and then your last name. Right, then you can adjust the font, like, sure, and then adjust how big it is. Cool. Cool, cool. And you can adjust other points, other things about the font too, like how expanded it is. There we go. Cool. Great. That's good. I don't like how it's down a little bit. We can adjust that as well. There. Good. So now you've seen how to adjust your font, and this is ready to go. So notice we want to make sure whatever color this is, it's going to stand out on the background, because we're going to have it on a white piece of paper. Alright, so then File, we're going to save this for web, and we can call this, let's save it by 1920 by 1080, it should already be set, and then we'll call this lathe table TN, no, we'll call it period underscore last name, lathe table. Table TN, save, cool. That's ready to go. That's saved. We can save this. You should probably save this in some other like generic file in a generic format. That way this is consistent. All you need to do is drag your two renders in. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's actually a really good idea. Now to export this. So what we need to do is we need to export this file. So all we need to do is grab this object, go to File, Export, Selected, okay, and wherever you want to save it, it should be your period, so last name, lathe table, alright, and that'll be a FBX. And when you save it, you don't actually have to triangulate it. Unreal will triangulate on the way in, and for me to look at it, it's a little better when I'm grading it to help if you triangulate it through here. You want to make sure embed media is on, and you want to make sure smoothing groups are on. But really, these two are the only ones that are really, really important. Please don't hit that. That will be a problem. Also, under advanced options, under axis conversion, Z up is preferable, and then you're done. Save it, and that's it. You have saved your file. You're going to turn that into me. So that's it for today. Now that you're done, and you went through all this, if you're done and you're done early, you can change the shape of the table base. You can make it sharper, like the actual lathe tool, the line tool that makes the lathe happen. You can make it significantly different. You could make 4 legs in a square table, so you could have 4 like lathed legs. Of course, you don't even want to do one of them and then copy it. Usually they're square at the top too, so that would also be interesting. You'd have to like weld some edges together to make that happen. If you want to get real crazy, you could add a lot more detail to the feet. You could make them look like claws or something, ornate carvings or inlaid stones on the top. Like some of those tables have like, I don't know, like stone, pieces of stone stuck in there, or maybe some sort of gems or something. That could be cool. Or if you're really crazy, you could add a whole chess set by using the lathe tool to create pawns and rooks and all sorts of stuff. That would be insane. But if you got the time, why not? And then finally, if you want to just work on your Photoshop skills, you could add coffee stains or make the table look a little more real and less glossy and brand new, right? You could also adjust the specular map, so you could create a black and a grayscale map that says, all right, this piece of the table, well, the top will be glossy, but underneath will be maybe not as glossy, maybe a little more matte finish, right? And normal maps, and if you want to go real crazy and then bake a normal map out, you could totally do that. We haven't gone over that stuff, but you can look it up online and try it out. All right. Thanks for watching the series. I hope you enjoy your table, and we'll see you next week.